In a flash of blinding light, the alien fleet teleported into Earth's orbit, the massive gleaming ships blotting out the stars and dwarfing humanity's primitive space stations. An unknown species had found humanity, and they wasted no time issuing an ultimatum. "Kneel before the Iridian Empire," boomed the telepathic message from the Iridian leader Deneb across every communication frequency on Earth, his cold and commanding voice reverberating in the minds of every human. "Submit to our rule or face annihilation. You have one day to decide your fate." The message ended. Panic gripped the planet as the alien ships loomed menacingly overhead, their offensive capabilities unknown, but undoubtedly formidable. In a secure bunker deep beneath the White House, the President of the United States convened an emergency summit with other world leaders via quantum-encrypted channels. Grim-faced men and women weighed the impossible choice before them: bend the knee to alien invaders to prevent bloodshed, or risk everything to defend Earth's freedom. The President turned to the shadowy figure at the far end of the table. "Mr. Cooper, you told me you had a plan. Now's the time to hear it." Benjamin Cooper, brilliant aerospace engineer and sci-fi aficionado, stood and activated the holographic display. "Based on our analysis of intercepted Iridian communications and observation of their fleet, their spacefaring tech is centuries ahead of ours, but their ground forces and equipment are less advanced. We believe they prefer conquering through intimidation and orbital superiority, but have a critical vulnerability," he explained. The gathered leaders listened intently, a spark of hope glimmering in their eyes for the first time since the Iridians arrived. Benjamin zoomed in on the schematic of an ICBM. "We outfit our nukes with makeshift warp drives to teleport them aboard the Iridian ships, a surprise first strike on the heart of their fleet. We'll only get one shot before they adapt, but it could cripple them." "You're insane," the Secretary of Defense scoffed, "betting the survival of the human race on some sci-fi Hail Mary?" "Insane, yes," the President interjected, "but it may be our only chance. Make it happen, Mr. Cooper. You have the full resources of humanity at your disposal. Failure is not an option." As the meeting adjourned and Benjamin rushed to assemble his strike team, the Iridian ships began a devastating orbital bombardment of major cities worldwide. A small taste of their power, and of what was to come if humanity refused to kneel. Benjamin Cooper's fingers flew across his keyboard, rapidly coding the warp drive control software as his team raced to retrofit Earth's nuclear arsenal. The clock was ticking, and every second counted. Suddenly, an alert flashed on his screen. An incoming message on a quantum-encrypted channel. Benjamin's brow furrowed as he accepted the transmission, wondering who could have access to this secure line. The face of an Iridian appeared, his angular features and glowing eyes unmistakable. But instead of the cold superiority Benjamin expected, this Iridian's expression held a mix of persistence and desperation. "Benjamin Cooper, I am Rigel. I know you have no reason to trust me, but many of us oppose Deneb's conquest. I'm here to help you make your attack succeed." Benjamin leaned forward, his heart pounding. "I'm listening." Rigel transmitted detailed schematics of the Iridian ships, highlighting a vulnerability. "Target the power cores when the shields drop to launch fighters or fire the orbital cannons. That's when they're exposed." A plan formed in Benjamin's mind. He could use Earth's ground forces as bait, provoke the Iridians to commit their troops and lower their defenses, and when Rigel gave the signal, they'd strike. Benjamin relayed the strategy to the world's leaders. They wasted no time mobilizing every military unit for a coordinated offensive. Soldiers massed in the streets of London. Tanks rolled out of hangars. Fighter jets scrambled from jungle airstrips in the Amazon. Inside Deneb's flagship, Rigel crept through the gleaming corridors, his heart racing with the knowledge that discovery meant certain death. He positioned himself near the engineering controls, ready to sabotage the ship at the crucial moment. As the Iridian ships began their orbital bombardment, the human armies attacked with a ferocity that surprised even Benjamin. Bullets and laser blasts filled the air as the aliens rushed to deploy their troops to the surface. The shields flickered and dropped. Rigel sent the signal. Benjamin's team launched the warp drives. Nuclear missiles vanished from their silos in flashes of blue light. An instant later, they materialized deep inside the Iridian ships. Before the aliens could react, Rigel overloaded the power cores. The resulting explosions consumed him and anything nearby as the weaponized warp drives amplified the destruction. Iridian ships burst like supernovas in Earth's orbit, their hulls shattering into molten fragments. Deneb's flagship erupted into a blinding fireball. The orbital bombardment sputtered out abruptly as the alien fleet was reduced to twisted wreckage. Across every contested region on Earth, human soldiers pressed their advantage with renewed ferocity, hope surging through their veins at the sight of the Iridian ships breaking apart overhead. The aliens wavered, their formations falling into disarray without support from orbit. In city after city, the invaders began to fall back under the relentless human assault. Iridian warriors lay broken in the streets. Burning dropships crashed into neighborhoods. Panicked alien chatter filled the comms as the Iridians' vaunted discipline crumbled. But Benjamin knew the war had only just begun. The Iridians still had a foothold on Earth, and they would not relinquish it easily. Defeating them would require more unorthodox strategies, more courage, more sacrifice. This was humanity's home, and they would fight for every inch of it. The greatest test was still to come. The dust had barely settled from the orbital battle when Benjamin Cooper and the resistance forces sprang into action. Across the globe, human armies surged forward, determined to reclaim their world from the Iridian invaders. In New York, tanks rolled through the debris-strewn streets of Manhattan. Soldiers advanced block by block, flushing out alien stragglers. The Statue of Liberty stood tall, a beacon of hope amid the chaos. But the tide of battle shifted abruptly. The ground shook with thunderous footsteps as massive tripod walkers emerged from concealed Iridian landing craft. Their metal legs towered over skyscrapers, plasma cannons glowing with deadly energy. "What the hell are those things?" a soldier shouted as the first mech strode into view. The walkers opened fire. Searing plasma bolts reduced entire city blocks to ash and rubble. Tanks and artillery units that had been pushing the Iridians back were vaporized in seconds. Benjamin watched in horror from a command bunker as similar scenes played out worldwide. London, Tokyo, Moscow, the mechs were unstoppable. "Sir, we're getting slaughtered out there," General Hawkins reported. "Our weapons can't penetrate their armor or shields." Benjamin studied video feeds of the rampaging walkers, searching for any weakness. His eyes narrowed as he noticed the complex joint mechanisms of the legs. "There," he said, pointing. "The legs! If we could hit those joints with enough force." Benjamin outlined his plan to mount experimental railguns on fighter jets. The others looked skeptical. "It's insane," the Air Force chief said. "Those jets would have to get dangerously close to even line up a shot." "It's all we've got," Benjamin replied. "Let's make it happen." Over the next 48 hours, Benjamin worked feverishly with engineers to design and construct the railgun prototypes. Meanwhile, cities around the world fell to the Iridian walkers. Benjamin personally briefed the pilots chosen for the mission. "Aim for the knee and hip joints," he instructed. "You'll only get one shot before they target you, so make it count." As dawn broke, the retrofitted jets took off from hidden airfields. Benjamin listened anxiously to the radio chatter as they engaged the walkers besieging Washington, D.C. "Wolf 1 lining up my shot," a pilot reported. His jet screamed past a mech's legs at treetop level. "Firing!" A hypersonic tungsten rod erupted from the railgun with a thunderous crack. It punched through the walker's knee joint in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. The massive machine toppled, crashing into the National Mall. "Direct hit," the pilot whooped. "These bastards can be killed." More walkers fell as the jets pressed their attack. On the ground, infantry swarmed the downed mechs, neutralizing Iridian crews. But the aliens' superior numbers began to tell. Jet after jet was swatted from the sky by plasma fire. The pilots fought bravely to the last, taking down walkers even as their planes disintegrated around them. Finally, the last Iridian mech crashed to Earth. A ragged cheer went up from the surviving human forces. They had done it. Earth's cities were saved. In the command bunker, Benjamin slumped in exhaustion. They had won the battle, but at a terrible cost, and he knew the war was nowhere near the end. Reports came in of Deneb and his remaining troops falling back to a fortified position. This was it, the end game. One final push to rid Earth of the Iridian menace once and for all. Benjamin stood, steeling himself for the challenge ahead. "All right, people, let's finish this," he said. "It's time to take the fight to Deneb." Benjamin Cooper stood atop a snow-covered ridge, surveying the Iridian stronghold nestled deep in the Himalayas. The alien base sprawled across a valley, its metallic structures a stark contrast to the rugged mountain terrain. An iridescent energy shield shimmered around the compound, while massive plasma cannons tracked the skies. "Impressive defenses," muttered General Hawkins beside him. "A frontal assault would be suicide." Benjamin nodded grimly. "That's why we're not going to give them one." Back at the forward command post, Benjamin pored over holographic schematics of the Iridian base, his eyes fixed on a pulsing node near the center. "There," he said, pointing. "The shield generator. It's tied directly to their orbital satellites." A team of hackers hunched over banks of computers, fingers flying across keyboards as they crafted a virus to infiltrate the alien systems. In another tent, scientists fine-tuned a massive particle accelerator jury-rigged from scavenged tech. Days passed in feverish preparation. Finally, Benjamin gave the order to begin the assault. "Initiating virus upload, now," announced the lead hacker. Tense minutes ticked by as the virus wormed its way through Iridian firewalls. Inside the alien base, alarms blared as Deneb realized they were under cyber attack. But it was too late. The shield generator systems went haywire, fed a stream of false data. Energy levels spiked uncontrollably. With a thunderous roar, the generator detonated in a massive fireball, taking out the power core. "Shields down!" shouted Benjamin. "Fire the particle beam!" A blinding lance of energy lashed out, slamming into the weakened defenses. The air crackled with ozone as a gaping hole was torn in the barrier. "All units attack," Benjamin ordered. Tanks and armored vehicles surged forward. Swarms of jets and gunships filled the sky. The ground shook as artillery shells rained down on Iridian positions. Benjamin led a strike team into the heart of the alien fortress. Plasma bolts sizzled past as they fought through the streets. An Iridian warrior lunged at Benjamin with an energy blade. He ducked under the swing and put 3 rounds through the alien's chest. Suddenly, Benjamin's comm crackled to life. "Sir, we've intercepted Iridian transmissions. Deneb's arming some kind of doomsday weapon." "Understood," Benjamin replied grimly. "I'm going after him. Hold this position." He assembled an elite squad and plunged into the underground levels of the base. They battled through waves of Iridian defenders, the air thick with weapons fire and alien screams. At last they reached a massive blast door. Beyond it lay Deneb and the antimatter bomb. Benjamin planted breaching charges as energy bolts splashed against their cover. 3, 2, 1, breach! The door blew inward. Benjamin's team stormed the chamber, unleashing a hail of gunfire. Deneb's guards fell in seconds. The Iridian leader snarled and reached for the detonator. Benjamin's rifle cracked. Deneb collapsed, the device clattering away. "Disarm that bomb now," Benjamin ordered. His team swarmed over the antimatter warhead, working frantically to disable it. The countdown ticked inexorably towards 0. With seconds to spare, the bomb systems went dark. Benjamin let out a shaky breath. They had done it. Word spread quickly. All across the Iridian compound, the aliens threw down their weapons and surrendered. The terrible war that had devastated Earth was finally over. As Benjamin emerged from the underground bunker, he saw human soldiers and civilians embracing, tears of joy streaming down their faces. Cheers echoed off the mountains. Against impossible odds, humanity had preserved its freedom and beaten back the alien menace. But Benjamin knew the real work was just beginning. It would take years to rebuild what was lost, and out there in the cosmos, other threats might be lurking. Earth would need to be ready. The cheers of victory echoed through the streets of Earth's cities, a cacophony of joy and relief. Benjamin Cooper stood atop a crumbling skyscraper, watching as humans embraced and wept openly. Flags of every nation fluttered in the breeze, a testament to humanity's united stand against the Iridian threat. But the celebration was cut short. A technician burst onto the rooftop, face pale with fear. "Sir, we've intercepted a transmission. You need to hear this." Benjamin's stomach dropped as he listened to the message. Deneb's voice, smug and triumphant, filled the air. "Fools. Did you really think we'd surrender so easily? The true invasion begins now." The sky lit up with brilliant flashes as a massive Iridian fleet materialized in Earth's orbit. Ship after ship dropped out of warp, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Benjamin's eyes widened as he realized this armada dwarfed the initial invasion force. A booming voice echoed across every communication channel on the planet. "I am Supreme Commander Antares. You have defied the Iridian Empire for the last time. Surrender Deneb and submit to our rule or face total annihilation." Benjamin clenched his fists. "Like hell we will," he growled. In war rooms across the globe, Earth's leaders convened emergency meetings. Benjamin addressed them via holographic link. "We beat them once. We'll do it again." "But how?" a Chinese general asked. "Our forces are depleted. Our city's in ruins." Benjamin's eyes gleamed with willpower. "We have something they don't. Iridian tech. Let's put it to use." Over the next 72 hours, human engineers and scientists worked around the clock. They cannibalized captured Iridian vessels, repurposing alien weaponry into a network of orbital defense platforms. Massive railguns were constructed on the planet's surface, their barrels pointed skyward. As the last defense satellite clicked into place, Antares made good on his threat. The Iridian fleet opened fire, raining plasma bolts onto major population centers. The ground shook as cities burned. Benjamin paced the command center, watching destruction unfold on dozens of screens. A crazy idea began to form. "We need to hit them where it hurts, right in the heart of their fleet." He outlined his plan to a group of stunned officers. "It's insane," one of them muttered. "It's our only shot," Benjamin replied. He hand-selected his team, the best pilots, the brightest minds, the toughest soldiers humanity had to offer. Under cover of night, they infiltrated the secure facility where Deneb's captured flagship was held. Alarms blared as they fought their way to the bridge. Benjamin slid into the captain's chair, fingers dancing over alien controls. The engines roared to life. "Incoming!" a soldier shouted as Iridian interceptors screamed towards them. Benjamin yanked on the controls, sending the massive ship into a barrel roll. Plasma bolts sizzled past the viewports. "Arm the antimatter warheads," he ordered. The ship shuddered as it punched through Earth's atmosphere. Benjamin's hands flew across the warp drive controls, plotting a course directly into the heart of Antares' fleet. Space bent around them as they plunged into the swirling vortex of a warp conduit. Iridian pursuit ships gave chase, weapons blazing. Benjamin's stolen vessel bucked and weaved, barely staying ahead of the onslaught. They erupted back into normal space in the midst of the Iridian armada, ships stretched as far as the eye could see in every direction. "Now!" Benjamin shouted. Antimatter warheads streaked away from the ship in a carefully calculated pattern. For a moment, all was still. Then, space itself seemed to tear apart. The first detonation consumed an entire Iridian cruiser in a flash of impossible light. The blast chained to the next ship, and the next, a domino effect of utter annihilation. Benjamin stared in awe as a sphere of pure destruction expanded outward, swallowing Antares' fleet. The Iridian flagship vanished in a burst of fire at the heart of the conflagration. Warnings blared throughout the ship as antimatter shockwaves battered its hull. "We have to get out of here!" the helmsman yelled. Benjamin gritted his teeth and pulled hard on the controls. They rode the edge of the blast, tumbling end over end as they plunged back into a warp conduit. The ship emerged above Earth, trailing debris and venting atmosphere from a dozen breaches. Benjamin transmitted targeting data to the planetary defense grid before losing control of the failing vessel. As they plummeted towards the surface, Benjamin saw Earth's railguns open fire. Streaks of light lanced into space, punching through the quantum distortions left by the antimatter blast to annihilate the remaining Iridian ships. "Abandon ship," Benjamin ordered. The crew scrambled for escape pods as the ground rushed up to meet them. Benjamin was the last to eject. His pod slammed into a field, the impact rattling his bones. He crawled from the wreckage, eyes fixed on the sky. The last Iridian vessels flickered and died, consumed by Earth's defenses. A ragged cheer rose from the scattered bands of human survivors. Benjamin sank to his knees, exhaustion finally overtaking him. They had done it. Earth was free. Benjamin Cooper stood on the bridge of the retrofitted Iridian flagship, his eyes fixed on the holographic display of the Alberio system. The ringed gas giant loomed before them, its atmosphere swirling with violent storms. Orbital platforms and defensive installations dotted the space around the planet, a testament to the Iridians' paranoia. "Status report," Benjamin barked, his voice tight with tension. Lieutenant Sarah Chen's fingers danced across the alien control panel. "Cloaking fields holding at 98% efficiency. Enemy fleet ETA, 47 minutes. Benjamin nodded, his mind racing through possible strategies. "We can't let them regroup. Prepare for immediate engagement." He opened a channel to the rest of the human fleet. "This is Cooper. You all know what's at stake. Earth, our families, our future. We hit them hard and fast. No hesitation." A chorus of affirmatives echoed through the comm. Benjamin felt a swell of pride. These weren't seasoned space marines, but teachers, farmers, and office workers who'd stepped up to save their world. "Weapons hot. Disable cloaking on my mark," Benjamin ordered. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. 3, 2, 1, mark. The human fleet shimmered into view, mere kilometers from Alberio Prime's outer defenses. For a split second, there was silence. Then all hell broke loose. Plasma bolts and energy beams crisscrossed space as the Iridian defense grid came online. Human ships unleashed salvos of missiles, their warheads packed with scavenged alien tech. Benjamin's flagship rocked as a near miss grazed their shields. "Evasive maneuvers," he shouted. "Focus fire on those orbital platforms." The ship's AI, a hybrid of human and Iridian code, executed a series of stomach-churning rolls and dives. Benjamin gripped his command chair, watching as explosions bloomed across Alberio Prime's exosphere. "Sir," Chen called out, "we've breached their outer defenses, but that incoming fleet just went to maximum burn. They'll be here in minutes." Benjamin's mind raced. They were committed now. There was only one path forward. "All ships, form up on me," he commanded. "We're punching through to the surface." The human fleet tightened formation, creating a spearhead with Benjamin's flagship at the tip. They plunged towards Alberio Prime, weaving through a maelstrom of defensive fire. Ships exploded left and right as they ran the gauntlet. Benjamin felt each loss like a physical blow, but they pressed on, screaming through the layers of Alberio's atmosphere. Warnings blared as the ship's hull temperature spiked. "Coolant systems at maximum!" an engineer yelled. Benjamin's eyes never left the tactical display. "Stay on target," he growled. They burst through the cloud layers, and Benjamin's breath caught in his throat. Below them sprawled a vast Iridian metropolis, its spires reaching into the stormy skies. "There," Benjamin pointed at a massive structure at the city's heart. "That has to be their central command. All ships, convergence fire." The remains of the human fleet opened up with everything they had. The Iridian Citadel's shields flared and buckled under the onslaught. Suddenly, Chen's console lit up like a Christmas tree. "Multiple warp signatures. The Iridian fleet is here." Benjamin's expression resolute. They were out of time. "Patch me through to their command frequency," he ordered. He took a deep breath, knowing the next few moments would decide the fate of humanity. "Attention, Iridian High Command. This is Benjamin Cooper of Earth. Your homeworld is under our guns. Surrender now, or we'll reduce your precious Alberio Prime to ashes." There was a tense pause. Benjamin's finger hovered over the trigger that would launch their remaining antimatter warheads. The comm crackled to life with an alien voice. The comm crackled silent. Benjamin's finger hovered over the antimatter launch controls, sweat beading on his brow. Seconds stretched into eternity. Suddenly, the tactical display erupted with new contacts. The Iridian reinforcement fleet had arrived. "All ships break formation," Benjamin barked. "Disengage cloaking and initiate attack pattern Omega." The bridge exploded into action. Lieutenant Chen's hands flew across the alien controls, disengaging the cloaking field. The vast emptiness of space shimmered, revealing the human fleet mere kilometers from Albareo Prime's outer defenses. Benjamin's flagship surged forward, spearheading the assault. "Fire all forward batteries," he commanded. The ship shuddered as volleys of plasma and antimatter torpedoes streaked towards the nearest Iridian defense platforms. Blinding explosions lit up the void as the first salvo found its mark. All around them, human vessels engaged in a deadly dance with Iridian patrol ships. Bursts of weapons fire crisscrossed the battlefield. A nearby cruiser erupted in a ball of flame as an Iridian energy beam sliced through its hull. "Squadron Delta, focus on those ground-based lasers," Benjamin ordered over the fleet-wide channel. He watched as swarms of human fighters dove towards the planet's surface, weaving through a hail of defensive fire. Alarms blared across Albareo Prime as the Iridian command structure reeled from the surprise attack. Panicked transmissions flooded the airwaves. "Sir, we've breached their outer perimeter," Chen reported, her voice tight with tension. Benjamin nodded grimly. "Good. Prep the boarding teams. We're taking that shipyard." Elite human strike forces materialized inside the massive Iridian orbital construct. They moved with practiced efficiency, neutralizing alien security forces and slicing into computer terminals. "Reactor control accessed," a gruff voice reported over the comm, "initiating overload sequence." As Benjamin's forces pushed deeper into Albareo's defenses, new warp signatures flared to life. The Iridian reinforcement flotilla had arrived, led by the imposing bulk of Supreme General Al-Nilam's flagship. But before the Iridian commander could rally his forces, a series of devastating explosions rocked the occupied shipyard. The overloaded reactors detonated, unleashing a shockwave that tore through the orbital infrastructure. "Now!" Benjamin roared. "All ships concentrate fire on the Iridian fleet." Human vessels pounced on the disoriented Iridian reinforcements, unleashing devastating missile salvos. Al-Nilam's flagship listed to port, venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. Seizing the initiative, Benjamin issued his next command. "Launch the surface assault teams, hit their command and control centers hard." Swarms of captured Iridian fighters and assault landers screamed through Albareo Prime's atmosphere. By piggybacking on the IFF protocols extracted from Deneb's ship, many slipped past the planetary defenses undetected. As battles raged in orbit and on the surface, human commandos infiltrated a massive Iridian orbital structure. They fought their way to a central control hub, uploading a vicious computer virus into the alien network. Across Albareo Prime, Iridian defensive systems began to fail. Communication networks collapsed. Orbital weapon platforms went dark. In the skies above the Iridian capital, Benjamin's battered fleet made its final stand against Al-Nilam's numerically superior forces. Human ships exploded left and right, but they refused to yield. Fires raged across Albareo Prime's once gleaming cities. The orbital lanes were choked with debris from destroyed vessels. Supreme General Al-Nilam stared at his tactical displays in disbelief, watching as his carefully laid defenses crumbled before the relentless human assault. With a heavy heart, he gave the order. "All remaining ships, disengage and fall back. We have lost Albareo Prime." As the remnants of the Iridian fleet retreated, Benjamin allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. They had done the impossible. Humanity had seized the Iridian homeworld. But he knew the true test was yet to come. They would need to press their advantage before the Iridians could regroup. The war for Earth's survival had entered its final, decisive phase. Benjamin Cooper's boots crunched on the rubble-strewn streets of Albareo Prime's capital. Smoke billowed from shattered skyscrapers as human soldiers fortified their positions. The distinctive whine of Earth-made plasma rifles echoed through the alien metropolis. "Status report," Benjamin barked into his comm. "Sir, we've pushed back 3 Iridian counterattacks in the last hour," Lieutenant Chen responded. "Our lines are holding." Benjamin nodded, surveying the carnage. Human troops moved with purpose, securing intersections and setting up defensive perimeters. The orbital shipyards, visible through gaps in the smoke-filled sky, bristled with newly arrived Earth vessels. "Good. It's time for Phase 2, Benjamin said. "Get me our best strike team. We're going after their wormhole nexus." Hours later, Benjamin stood in the wreckage of an Iridian command center. Bodies of alien soldiers lay sprawled across shattered control panels. A human tech expert hunched over a salvaged terminal, fingers flying across unfamiliar keys. "I've got it, sir," the tech exclaimed. "Coordinates for the wormhole generator complex." Benjamin leaned in, studying the alien script. His eyes widened. "It's in a volcanic fissure zone. This won't be easy." Within the day, Benjamin led a column of armored vehicles and combat robots towards the coordinates. The landscape transformed from urban sprawl to a hellscape of molten rock and toxic fumes. Lava bubbled in vast pools on either side of their narrow path. Noxious gases hissed from vents in the blackened ground. The air shimmered with heat, warping Benjamin's view of the terrain ahead. "Watch those readings!" Benjamin shouted as a robot scout stumbled, its leg melting in a pool of superheated slurry. "One wrong step and we're cooked." They pressed on, weaving between towers of cooling magma. Suddenly, the lead vehicle exploded in a fireball of alien energy weapons. "Ambush!" Benjamin yelled, diving for cover behind a rocky outcropping. Iridian hunter-killer squads materialized from hidden bunkers, pouring fire into the human column. Benjamin's troops returned fire, filling the air with plasma bolts and railgun slugs. The acrid smell of ozone mixed with the sulfurous stench of the volcanic vents. For hours, they fought through one Iridian strongpoint after another. Benjamin's exosuit was scorched and pitted, his muscles aching from the constant combat. Finally, they crested a ridge and saw their objective, a massive installation built into the side of an active volcano. Benjamin raised his binoculars, studying the facility's defenses. "This is it, people," he said. "The wormhole nexus. Let's finish this." They charged down the slope, weathering a storm of Iridian fire. Benjamin's combat robots took point, drawing the brunt of the defensive barrage. Human commandos used the distraction to breach the outer perimeter. Benjamin sprinted through the gaps in the Iridian line, his rifle spitting death. They fought room by room, pushing deeper into the complex. "Sir!" a commando shouted. "The place is rigged to blow. Antimatter charges everywhere." Before Benjamin could respond, the ground shook violently. Chunks of ceiling crashed down around them. "Iridian artillery," someone screamed. "They're trying to bury us alive." Benjamin grabbed the nearest tech expert. "Get those charges disarmed now, the rest of you with me. We hold this position at all costs." He took up a firing stance at a shattered window, watching as fresh waves of Iridian troops swarmed towards the complex. The air filled with the scream of energy weapons and the thunder of human guns. Behind him, techs worked frantically to decrypt the wormhole controls. Benjamin knew their entire invasion hinged on the next few minutes. He ejected a spent power cell from his rifle, slammed in a fresh one, and opened fire. Fire. The ground shook as another volley of Iridian artillery struck nearby, showering Benjamin and his troops with debris. "Status on those charges?" Benjamin shouted over the din of battle. A tech's voice crackled through his comm. "Almost there, sir. Just a few more firewalls to crack." Benjamin ducked as plasma bolts sizzled overhead, melting chunks of alien alloy from the walls. He peeked over his cover, squeezing off precise bursts from his rifle. 2 Iridian soldiers dropped, their chitinous armor smoking. "Cooper!" Lieutenant Chen's voice rang out. "We've got incoming, big bastards!" Benjamin sprinted to a shattered viewport, his boots crunching over broken glass. His eyes widened at the sight. Massive Iridian war machines stomped through the volcanic landscape, their legs sinking into pools of molten rock without a scratch. "All units, Focus fire on those mechs, Benjamin ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos. Aim for the joint servos. Human troops repositioned, pouring fire into the advancing Iridian war machines. Railgun slugs pinged off their armored hides, barely leaving a dent. Inside the facility, sparks flew as human techs worked feverishly to bypass the wormhole's security systems. Sweat dripped from their brows, mixing with the acrid smell of ozone and burning circuitry. Sir, we're in, a tech shouted triumphantly. But, oh shit, self-destruct sequence initiated. Benjamin's mind raced. They were out of time and options. Everyone, fall back to the central chamber. We're overloading this whole damn thing. As his troops retreated deeper into the complex, Benjamin input a series of commands into his wrist computer. Klaxons blared as power surged through the facility's conduits. The air crackled with energy. Arcs of blue-white lightning danced between control panels. In the heart of the Nexus, a sphere of pure darkness began to form. "Brace for impact!" Benjamin yelled, diving behind a reinforced bulkhead. Reality itself seemed to bend and warp. A deafening boom shook the entire complex as the artificial singularity exploded outward. When Benjamin's vision cleared, he saw the devastation. The Iridian war machines lay in crumpled heaps, tossed about like children's toys. Surviving human troops cheered, their voices hoarse. "We did it," Chen said, her eyes wide with disbelief. "We actually did it." Benjamin nodded grimly. "Not over yet. Secure this facility and prep for counterattack. I want every scrap of Iridian tech cataloged and—" His words were cut off by an urgent transmission. "Sir, long-range scans are picking up massive Iridian fleets inbound. They're everywhere." Benjamin's heart made as he processed the information. They'd won the battle, but the war was far from finished. He turned to his assembled troops, their faces smeared with grime and blood. "Listen up," he said, his voice carrying across the ruined chamber. "We've bloodied their nose, but now the real fight begins. We've got two choices. Dig in here and hope we can hold out, or take the fight to them before they can regroup." He paused, studying the determined faces of his soldiers. "I say we hit 'em where it hurts. Who's with me?" Benjamin's boots crunched on the shattered remnants of Iridian technology as he strode through the wormhole Nexus control center. Sweat beaded on his forehead, his heart pounding as he input the final command sequences. "Sir, are you sure about this?" Lieutenant Chen's voice wavered, her eyes wide with apprehension. Benjamin's fingers hesitated over the activation key. "We don't have a choice, Chen. It's this or extinction." He pressed down. The facility hummed to life, conduits pulsing with otherworldly energies. Holographic displays flickered, showing a web of interconnected Iridian worlds. "My God," whispered a nearby technician. "It's working." They watched in stunned silence as wormholes tore open across the galaxy. The fabric of space-time buckled and warped. On the screens, Iridian forge worlds began to overlap themselves in impossible geometries. An alarm blared. "Sir," shouted the sensor operator. "Massive energy spike detected at Betelgeuse." The throne world's duplicate materialized inside its own atmosphere. Mountains pierced skyscrapers. Oceans poured into streets. The planet's core fused with itself, releasing a cataclysmic burst of energy. Similar scenes played out across a dozen worlds. Antimatter reactors collided, vaporizing entire continents. Shipyards folded in on themselves, crushed by their own mass. The paradox cascade spread like wildfire through Iridian space. Benjamin's comlink crackled. "Cooper, what have you done?" It was Deneb's voice, filled with panic and rage. "What I had to," Benjamin replied coldly, cutting the transmission. Hours passed. The halls of the Nexus fell silent, save for the hum of machinery and the occasional sob from shell-shocked soldiers. Benjamin stood transfixed before the central holo display, watching the death throes of an empire. As the final echoes of destruction faded, an unsettling stillness settled over the galaxy. The Iridian war machine lay in ruins, Entire star systems reduced to drifting debris fields. We won, Chen said, her voice barely above a whisper. Benjamin nodded, but couldn't shake the growing sense of unease. He zoomed the display out, past the edge of charted space. There, in the vast emptiness between galaxies, something moved. Vast, unknowable shapes stirred in the cosmic dark. A chill ran down his spine. Humanity had survived, but at what cost? What horrors had they unleashed upon the universe? The celebration would come later. For now, Benjamin Cooper stared into the abyss, knowing that the abyss was staring back.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.